Hello and welcome to this special conversation. Joining me today, Suresh Prabhu, Minister of Railways and the person who was handpicked by Prime Minister Modi to take charge of this very crucial ministry. Thank you very much, Mr. Prabhu, for joining us, even as this government completes 1 year in power. You at 6 months in the Railway Ministry, before I ask you for detailed questions, outlook and a rating of the government and its performance in the last 1 year.
You know, you must really look at where we were a year ago and how much long we have traveled. Of course, everything has to be put into that perspective. We have done a great job in last 1 year in pulling out India from where it was. And of course, now we can even move even faster in the next year because all those situations that we were in is out of the way. We have put many things in place. The fundamentals of economy have been restored. We look like a much healthier economy than what we were some years for last few years. And now, each and every sector seems to be gearing up. So just imagine, there are headwinds which are going to help India because of the global scenario that is in place. There is a situation in which India has a leadership, Prime Minister is there is a political capital behind him, he has a majority in the lower house of the parliament, and also each and every sector has been taken care of, got it out of the mess. If you recall, there was something like 8-9 lakh crores projects which are stuck. Prime Minister laid it from the front, tried to resolve those issues, and now they're out. So just imagine the equity and the debt, both were stuck in those projects.
Right.
How could you revive the economy if your money is stuck and I'm telling you to invest somewhere else? You said, please get me out of the rut first and then I will do that. So that is what has happened in the last 1 year. I'm not saying fully, but greatly. And I am telling you, in the next few years' time, you'll see a huge upside of all that work has been done in 1 year. So if you really look at it, you must give a tremendous credit to a leadership of the Prime Minister for what we have done in the last 1 year.
Okay, well, and what marks would you give to this government? On a scale of 1 to 10?
Next, what next?
For the last 1 year. What would be the rating that you would give?
You know, as I said, the ratings can be done by an external agency. That is better always because they are the ones.
Assume we are the external agency and
if you want me to do a self-assessment of this government,
all right,
and because I've been in the government, though not for the full term but part of it, I can definitely tell you that we really deserve a very good rating. I must say AAA should not be wrong, but if you want to discount a bit because our own ambition was much higher and therefore we are working very hard, I think definitely we should get a very good rating.
Okay, 9 out of 10 in other words that you would say.
I know, I would put it that way. And for simple reason is that where we were and where we have traveled is something we should always compare. And that's why I think we should get it.
Mr. Prabhu, that's a valid point. I'm going to ask you another question, and because we are reviewing all sorts of opinion about the government's 1 year, one section says that the expectations that were raised before the elections have not been delivered upon fully, and that there has been a lot of directional moves, but implementation and execution is lacking. Would you agree with that assessment? And what would you say to that section of opinion who's been talking about this over the last few weeks?
Let us, again, I'm taking very objectively. What was said during the campaign was definitely our stated objectives. But we never said that we are going to do it in 1 year. So we have a mandate. If everything could have been done for 1 year, then why the government should get 5-year term? They should get only 1 year term. So we have a mandate for 5 years. We'll try to implement as many commitments that we have made to the people during those 5 years' time. And some of them will be initiated in the 5 years, but may not be completed in 5 years. So that's why Prime Minister said that ask me a report card after 5 years, I'll give it to you. But of course, in democracy, people want to ask questions, they're right to ask questions, and we must give answers to those. So one is, all the promises which were made to the people are genuinely well-founded programs the government want to implement. But the time frame for each of those has to differ. It cannot be 1 year. Some happen in 1 year. For example, just look at a massive thing that has happened. Financial inclusion. Can you ever imagine? You know, I myself couldn't believe in it till I saw and talked to the people.
And you've been a practitioner in that space.
Absolutely, and therefore it's a phenomenal thing. And that too happened from 26th of January when, 15th of August, Prime Minister made that statement from Lorette Fort. 26th of January, before the Republic Day, we could achieve it. And then now, this is like a superstructure that we have created. So many things can be benefited from it. Our cash transfers can now happen. Black money issues can be tackled because everything goes to the bank system. There is a tracking of the money that goes in. That was never possible because so many people are outside the banking system. Thirdly, you can actually make so many programs work to the bank account because bank account gives an identity. Bank accounts gives an ability for us to decipher what is happening through your life. It's not tracking the individual life, but actually picking his financial life, and therefore to make it better, we could now work on those programs. So this is something which is phenomenal, I would say, and this is the foundation for tomorrow's India. So this is something we should really give credit. I would say not even 100 out of 100, even more, because this is something unbelievable, and never in the world it has happened that in such a short time, forget short time, but universalization of banking has happened only in large developed countries, but not so much in a developing country like India, and particularly in such a short time when we had no banking system at all. We thought in 1969, when we nationalized the banking system, we thought that that was a way to get universalization. Okay, why didn't it happen? Now 1969 means this is 46th year since we nationalized the banking system. So this was not a case that we used nationalization as a political ploy. But here we are not doing that. So people were swayed by this that now things will happen. Unlike that, same system, same structure, we didn't change it, we didn't change the ownership of the institution to make it happen. But we actually made the same system work to realize a dream which was always there.
The opposition, Mr. Prabhu, since you said dreams and many of these are implementation or work in progress, the opposition, again, the government has been saying is playing spoilsport. The finance minister has spoken about it. The prime minister himself has spoken about it. How do you view the current situation of relationship between the government and the opposition? Where does it stand according to you?
See, actually I think this is the time that we should think about calling opposition by some other name. We should not call them opposition, we should call them proposition. I think the right of the people who are not in the government is to propose something alternative to the country. Okay. It should not be just opposing everything that the government does. I think this is a long-term solution to this issue. When we call the opposition, we feel that their right is to oppose.
I am reminded of the reply of these proposers to your railway budget speech, and many of them only were criticizing you for not announcing new railway lines or giving more stops, and the sense that one got from your speech at that point of time was that there are people who are not very happy with your unstated plan of ensuring that the railways is not a gravy train. So on that same basis, do you think the proposition, if you were to call it, has now some wind in its sails because it is going around and saying programs are only being announced, nothing is happening on the ground, there are too many slogans, there are too many ideas, some go to the extent of saying that the Prime Minister travels overseas too often. All those criticisms, where does that sort of stand on the ground?
Let me, if you permit me for 2-3 minutes to answer this question. Please. One is, let us take slogans. Slogans are to reach out to the people. It is a communication tool. If you want to inspire people, when Subhash Chandra Bose said, "Tu mujhe khoon do, main tumhe azadi dunga," was he not serious about what he said? Was he just trying to make a slogan? When Mahatma Gandhi said, "Quit India," was it a slogan alone or was it a program? So can you think about something like this and try to belittle it only because by saying it's a sloganeering? No. This is something which was a genuine way of communicating with people. What I am saying, or even what Lincoln said, if I am not mistaken, if I am not committing, that you tell me what you will give it to me, not what I will give it to you. So if you think, are there only slogans? Or do people get inspired by this process and try to do something more than what they would have done ordinarily in their life to create a nation, to create a new society? This is the process of which the Prime Minister talking about Swachh Bharat. It is not a program for the government. This is a societal program. This is something which will change India. It's not going to happen in 5 years, I will tell you honestly. It is very difficult to do it in 5 years. It's changing mindsets of people. And therefore, if something like this happens and you ask people, "Oh, you talked about Swachh Bharat, I can see a dirt there." Yes, but that was never the intention of the Prime Minister that I announced it today and tomorrow it's going to be, India will be clean. So that is sloganeering. The second part is the foreign visits of Prime Minister. See, if you really compare the first year of the previous second UPA, then Prime Minister also travelled in maybe few days less. But what is that our Prime Minister doing? Can you imagine our Prime Minister was appointed as a Prime Minister candidate maybe in September last year. So last 1.5 years, or almost 2 years now.
2 years.
He has not taken a single day break. You can go through your media coverage. It's not that something, he is just saying for the sake of saying it. He is traveling from one end to another, within the country, outside the country, throughout 1 year and 9 months. Is you mean to say he's just enjoying traveling? He could have taken a break. He was in China on a Sunday. He could have easily taken a break like some previous prime ministers. And would have said, I want to relax on this day. He went to Mongolia. So what is he doing this? He is one prime minister who understands the relationship between projects and the policy. He's the one prime minister who understands the relationship between geopolitics and foreign policy. So right now, if we are being encircled by some countries to create problems for us by talking to our neighbors and try to create some relationship, we also must do the same thing with our other neighbors. And we should try to build relationship. We need money. So can we get money unless we talk to the countries who have the money? So China has the money, Japan has the money, US has the money. So we should try to talk to those countries. Can we do this without talking to those countries with their technology? Now we need, say, energy security. So we need relationship between Australia, we need relationship with Canada. Work out the resources for the energy. So what is important is there is something which is in the long-term interest of India. And suppose we are delegated, for example, if I was traveling, who is going to meet me as much as the Prime Minister's visit?
So Prime Minister visit is the prime ambassador of the country.
And he is doing it at a cost of his personal luxury, personal time. He is not doing it for enjoying. He is working there. I was with him in Australia when we went for the G20. I was tired. He was working from morning till late night, meetings after meeting, talking to people, doing this. Why is he doing it? So this is something he's not doing it for just pleasure and vacation. He's trying to do it for the purpose of promoting India's interest and understanding the larger relationship between the big picture and the small action, geopolitics and foreign policy. He also understands the relationship between project, and therefore he's spending hours and days together to untangle those stuck projects, but has not taken his eyes away from the real necessity of bringing out the policy for the country. So he is a one man who is trying to link the big picture with what really needs to be done. So macro and micro, the relationship, if is understood well, is by this Prime Minister.
On that note, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll continue to discuss Modi at One and the Railways Ministry with Suresh Prabhu. Don't go away. Welcome back. I'm in conversation with Suresh Prabhu discussing 1 year of the Modi government. You came in, and your record in the Railway Ministry has been that you came in, you presented a budget, you also gave a white paper, you outlined a vision for almost a decade, you set out one of the most ambitious fundraising programs. And while we can get into the minutiae, let me ask you one thing. For the wide viewership that we all enjoy, the bullet train, where is it today? Is it still a dream? Offer us a simple assessment of what is the real status of that, because people are focused on each of these single items as we complete 365 days of this government, and assessment would be quite fair if you could provide one.
See, to be honest, we don't have the technology for bullet trains. That's why we need to tie up with somebody. The countries who have the basic technology for bullet trains were actually really two. One was the Japanese and the other was the French. Chinese somehow acquired it, so they have also now. So if you want to use the bullet trains in India, like the Chinese did, we have to get a foreign company to help us to build that structure, which needs money. So we also need to find out a technology partner who could also provide us some money. Again, if you have money as well as technology, we need to find a viability. Can we just do it just because somebody is trying to give money and just giving technology, we should do it? So what is that we are doing? We are completing a viability study in case of Mumbai-Ahmedabad in the next few months. Then we'll take a call how to get it. But we have had a many meetings with the Japanese. At least I must have met 6-7 of the ministers from Japan visiting India, talking to them. Our team has already talked to them. Some people have gone from India to Japan, and we are talking to them on the bullet train between Mumbai and Ahmedabad. The second bullet train project we are thinking about is Delhi to Chennai, which is pretty long. Mumbai-Ahmedabad is very small. That's very ambitious. Chinese have a evince interest that they would be able to do feasibility, they will be able to talk to technology. And technology requires both tracks, safety, locomotives, the entire rolling stock. So all of that we need to be sourcing. Again, we don't have, as I said, we must not get trapped into that. We get technology from one country, another country, and then we get messed up. So we need to create an authority to actually look into it. I already directed my people to work on an authority which will actually monitor this. So they will do a proper technology selection, and eventually
Something like a high-speed railway authority.
High-speed railway, and whole idea is not to just get to help Japan or China or some other country. They get help is fine, but we also should get help like the Chinese did. We must indigenize this manufacturing in India over a period of time. We should not just be an importer of technology. So to make that, again, we are preparing a program. I asked Dr. Saraswat, not just for this alone, but to make in India campaign successful.
Because the railways has a very long history of making in India. It is one of the few institutions in the government sector which has a very strong manufacturing base.
That's why, how do we upgrade all our manufacturing capabilities, the workshop, the manufacturing units of the railways? So Dr. Saraswat and all our manufacturing units in India, they will be working together to find out, create a roadmap for this. Then for financing, the point that you mentioned, we already got a plan in place for getting that money that will be needed in the next 5 years. But to make sure that we use that money judiciously, to make sure that we actually have the capability within the railway system to service it properly, I got top 4 brains in the country to advise us. Mr. K.V. Kamath, as the chairman, Mrs. Arundhati Bhattacharya.
But who are you replacing Mr. Kamath with? Because you will have to replace him.
He could probably do that even because he's not honorary.
Oh, maybe the BRICS Bank.
The BRICS Bank he can do it, but also through video conferencing he could give advice to us. And in any case, it's an advisory, not necessarily on day-to-day basis.
So you're not letting him go, which is a good
strategic
thing.
idea. Rajiv Lal from IDFC, Raghav Bell of this. So they are all the ones. So the SBI cap is advising us on an ongoing basis for a complete process of doing this. So all of these processes, what I talked about, are not just ideas. They are implemented into reality. But try to understand, for railways, for example, now take this example because you're talking generally about people staying on the ground. Railways, any new project that you want to take, new means I'm not talking new line, I'm talking about only doubling, tripling, those projects which are announced in the budget to decongest
what people, if you allow me to interrupt, what people say is that bullet trains are fine, but at least improve the speeds of the existing network.
Right. You are absolutely right, and therefore it is not at the expense of the other. The bullet train is a separate project. We are trying to increase the speed of our existing train. For that we need decongestion. That is one way. If you can dedicated freight corridor can come up in the next 3 years, which I am trying to do. Maybe the target was 5 years from now, but let us see. We are trying to bring forward the implementation.
How are you confident that you will be able to bring it forward?
Trying my best to do that, though it's been a cost overrun, time overrun, but we are working on that. But if that happens, the average speed of train can also improve. There is no timetable for the goods train today. So we can put a timetable goods train. They can run at 50-60 kilometers per hour, which is presently it will come down to 20. Then we can make sure that the trains have a timetable which they can adhere to. All of this, you need first capacity to transport, and that capacity can come only when you doubling, tripling projects are completed. No single doubling, tripling project can be completed in less than 3 years to 5 years. So we need that much of time. But I'm not waiting for that.
The sense that one gets, and I'm sure our viewers will also be getting that here is a man who is involved in a structural deep dive of the railways. He's going into all aspects: technology upgradation, manpower, planning, long-term strategies, fundraising, pretty much all of it. And you have an impressive record given your previous stint in the Power Ministry. But like your ministerial colleague Nitin Gadkari has set a target, for instance, of 30 kilometers of road highways per day. I'm going to ask you a question, and allow me that. When do you think, or if at all do you think, can we reach a situation where a railway ticket will be available, a confirmed reserved railway ticket will be available on demand to an Indian passenger?
So this is not really asking me, this is my mission. I'm not only giving a time frame for a simple reason, because there are a lot of imponderables to be working on. One imponderable is that the demand for railways, if it rises exponentially, because if once we start creating capacity, there will be more and more people will move away from road to rail. When that happens, some of our planning goes awry, because the capacity that we have created is with a particular figure in mind. But I am sure this will happen on some routes, if not all, within the next 3 to 5 years, definitely. Because this is something cannot happen. Like, there are some routes which are very badly congested, particularly between Delhi to Calcutta, passing through UP and Bihar, the most populous states of India. They really suffer. I feel sorry for them.
And you must be getting hundreds of requests in the summer season for VIP quota release.
No, absolutely. You are 100% right. And every person thinks that he has been discriminated against, not realizing fully well that he is discriminating against somebody else who would have travelled by a normal course.
So what you're saying is that within your tenure and within the tenure of this government, you're looking at that, at least if not all India, but on specific routes. That's a good point, if I can ask you. A couple of last points, Mr. Prabhu. One is, and I'm coming back out of the railways, again some people saying that, oh, this government isn't doing big bang. You yourself have experience of dealing with the investor community, with foreign investors in your previous avatars. The world sort of keeps saying, oh, there are not enough big bangs happening. Offer us your response to that, because frankly, we don't know what a big bang is anymore.
You know, I was talking to some, as you mentioned about the investors, foreign investors, telling them, and I was in a country which is part of a Commonwealth, so I was giving an example of a cricket. I'll just repeat it again if you don't mind. I was saying that Sachin Tendulkar comes to bat and hits 6 sixes in 6 balls. It's a big bang. You know, he comes and made 6 sixes in 6 balls, and next time he comes to, after that next over, he gets out. So big bang start, but he gets out, India loses the match. Is it a good thing to do? Or Sachin Tendulkar should have batted long enough, should have seen India winning the match, would have been a big bang. In case of our government, we are not into T20. We are not even into one-day match. We are into actually a test match, which is 5 days, so 5-year test. But we are not even into 5-day test match. We are into 5-day, 5 matches test series. We want India to be, in the next 25 years, a proper developed country with $20 trillion economy, which the Prime Minister stated, which is all doable. If we bring in growth, we grow by 9% and eventually cross this psychological barrier of 10%. And once we become $20 trillion economy, I will just tell you this, some of the social program that we talk about. We'll have, with the GST coming in, with the tax administration improving, if I just imagine.
You think GST will come in? Sorry to interrupt.
I'm sure it will come in. That happening. And
but at what rates? You know, no. 26, 27%?
But that can be always be looked into, that can be changed. But just imagine, our tax GDP ratio 20%, $20 trillion economy. What is our annual revenue for the government? $4 trillion. $4 trillion is twice the size of India's today's economy. You can then use that money for so many social development programs. Or looking at some of the borrowing that the government is doing today for financing infrastructure, that's how the infrastructure gets financed anywhere in the world. You cannot use the revenue to finance capital. So therefore you have to do that. When the revenue stream increases because of that investment today, any amount of loan that you have taken today will look like a minuscule in comparison to the $20 trillion economy that we will be. When we can provide proper sanitation, good quality water, but all of that needs money. And all that money can come in when the growth takes place. And for the growth to take place, we need to invest into today and wait for the gestation period to be over and then reap the benefit of it. So if you are doing this, I'm sure people feel, oh, on the ground. But we are covering a lot of ground. Only thing is that you have to wait and see. There is a timeline you must give. This is the India which we are trying to build, not for anything else, but for the better future of the country.
Okay. And since you used a cricket example, I'm going to ask you the last question that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is the captain of the team, and you spoke about a long haul, and that is what you are telling people, have patience, you know. Where is Suresh Prabhu in this lineup? Is he a batsman? Is he a bowler? Is he an all-rounder? Because he came into the party and he made history that there's no one else in this party who also became railway minister and a basic primary member of the party virtually at the same instance. So where does Suresh Prabhu figure in this lineup?
So because you are again asking a cricket analogy, I was sitting in the pavilion. So whenever the batsman or who's batting needs to replace his bat or needs a helmet, new helmet, or has to be given water, he comes running. So I was a man like that. I'm running around to make sure that whatever my captain wants me to do, I will do. That's my only job. I'm neither qualified batsman. There are enough good number of batsmen. There are very good bowlers. There are very good fielders, and there is a unparalleled captain like Mr. Modi. So what we are doing is trying to run around, make sure that all our team succeeds eventually to build that new India. That's what our aspiration is.
And for the sake of the country, Mr. Prabhu, everybody, including all our viewers, will wish you a very long and sustained innings, because if there is one thing that we really need to get our country moving is a better railways, which is not a gravy train, but a train of happiness and prosperity. All the very best, and thank you so much for your time.
I need your best wishes as well as our viewers. So thank you for the best wishes, which is the only capital I have besides the patronage of the Prime Minister, who is supporting me fully.
Well, that was a special conversation with Suresh Prabhu about the railways, but more importantly about the Modi government, even as it completes 1 year in office. If you've been watching, thank you very much.